If you have not become a patron of the Geocache Talk Network, what are you waiting for? Patron levels start as low as a Bison Tube level at $3 a month. The sign up is easy. Simply go to the Geocache Talk website and click on the Become a Patron button, or go to patreon.com/Geocache Talk. Patrons now get the famous Blackout coin, invites to special events, and other really great items throughout the year. Become a patron today.
Logwork, the creators of the fantastic logbook, made with genuine Write-in-the-Rain paper. The logbook's designed for the micro-containers of the present and future, geared towards the hider who'd rather go caching than doing cache maintenance. Find them at logwork.com. That's LOGWERK.com.
And sponsored by smashingpennies.net. Get 10% off your order with code Geocache Talk Network. They are perfect to put in a geocache.
Right, hang on. Somewhere I have show notes. All right, hey everybody, it's it's time for Puzzle Talk, the Geocaching Puzzle Podcast brought to you by the Geocache Talk Network. I am one of your co-hosts. I am paired with that guy Tom, Electric Waterboy. Together, we are your Puzzle Talk hosts. So we wanted to mention this real quick off the bat. We know that the one of our sponsors, the SmashingPennies.net, their website is currently down for some unknown reason. We've reached out to them, but wanted to let y'all know that I did back in the day order some of these smashed pennies. They come out looking kind of oblong shaped like this. This one has, it's hard to see because of the glare off of my light, but this one does have the geocaching logo stamped into it. And I took a bunch of these to Japan with me on my recent trip and left a bunch of them in geocaches over there. So the website is down. Their Facebook page is still up and running. So if you do want to reach out to them and grab some smashed pennies, would suggest sending them a message through their Facebook page until they can get their website back up and running. So there's that.
Hey, that smashed penny looked like it was kind of pointed toward the end. Could you use that in survival gear and make a spear?
You probably could. I used it. I used the tip of it. It is kind of rather pointed on the one end. It's nice and round on the other, but it is pointed. I used this to finagle a couple of logs out of some micro containers in Japan. I've got one that we bent it around so that it kind of hooked and we could fish it right in the end of a cache and finagle the log sheet out. So it did become a tot at one point in time, and that one that I had done that to is now like super sharp and pokey on the end. So I've pulled it out and thrown it into another pocket on my bag so that I don't accidentally leave it in a cache. So there you go. So all right, well, Leah, Pizza Ninja, we appreciate you, sir, and everything that you do for the technology challenged Tom and myself, because we wouldn't be able to do some of this stuff without you. So you, sir, we appreciate you. I will find and buy you a dill pickle pizza the next time we are together so that we can share that.
And a pickle beer to go with it.
I don't know. Maybe
I didn't say I'm going to buy us one. I'll buy him one. I've had one.
Oh, okay. Maybe a peach Hefeweizen or something like that for myself. But yeah. All right. So news. Do we have news? We do have some news, or at least some news that I wanted to say something about. So mega season is finally upon us. The first mega of the year rolled out this last weekend in Yuma, Arizona. So if you didn't get to the one in Yuma for the first mega of the new calendar year. Well, I say that's probably wrong because I think there was one in Germany in January. So on the US side, the first mega of the year was in Yuma. So that being said, it is mega season. There are 3 opportunities to go to a mega somewhere in the world for Leap Day. This is a leap year, and we do have some Leap Day megas. So there's one in South Australia, hosted by Geocaching SA, South Australia. There's one in Niedersachsen, Germany. And there's one in Round Rock, Texas, hosted by TTO2. So if you're looking for some of those cool add-ons to your profile and you've not attended a mega on Leap Day, you can get one of those cool little add-ons to your badge gen thing through Project GC by attending a mega event on Leap Day. There are 3 of them around the world. And then
and one of us is going to be at one of them.
That's right. One of you is going to be at it. I'm not, because Leap Day is a Wednesday, but I am. I've already got a event host.
Please say Thursday.
No, I'm pretty sure that the 29th. Hang on. Let's. No, it is a Thursday. No, you're right.
You just scared the crap out of me, dude. Don't be doing that.
Yeah. So, you've got three chances to get to one of those around the world if you want that. I already have a event host and a CETO for Leap Day on mine from where I hosted an event and a CETO years ago. But Bamarama is coming up. The 22nd annual Texas Challenge and Geocaching Festival is right around the corner.
I'll be there.
And then
let me put a plug for that. If you come play from out of state, we'll have
Tom's your captain. That's
well,
right.
not yet, but I did sign up for out of state. So
okay.
If you come and play, we'll have a car, we'll have fun. We may not win, but by golly, we'll have fun.
There's another one in the Australian Capital Territory coming up in which is the Oz Mega, hosted by the Oz Mega Committee. It's the Capital Geobash. So that's just a couple of the first ones that are coming up. So if you want to get out and experience an event on a large scale, the mega events are a good way to do that. There's a mega event coming up in Czechia, and then Spring Fling number 3 is coming up in Southern California. So
isn't there one coming up in Oklahoma
early
this summer?
There is one coming up in Oklahoma. Let's see. I've got them by date. So yeah. Cache Fest Oklahoma is coming up, and that is hosted by your Cache Fest committee. They are dedicated to putting on great events. This is going to be the first mega event in Oklahoma, so we encourage everybody who can to come on out that way. It's going to be a good time. Tom and I will be there for that and whatnot. So if you're in the neighborhood and would like to attend mega events, they are coming back out. I know for a while Groundspeak did take the Find a Mega Event link off of their homepage, but it is back. So if you're looking for a mega event, just go to geocaching.com's main website, and right there on the splash screen that you land on is the Find a Mega Event Near You tab. So you can click on that and look at all of at least right now, all 47 published mega events in the upcoming future. There was some stuff that came out today about, Thomas the MOGA event shows that it is disabled, temporarily disabled. So I don't know what's going on with that event. But I was just looking at it just now, and the mega event is showing temporarily disabled. So
Yeah, it's been disabled for a couple weeks now.
yeah, so further information to come from that from AFK and the MOGA crew. I've worked on that mega in the past as part of the puzzle team that created the puzzles for the puzzle portion of it. So I don't know what to say. That one is showing temporarily disabled. So best of luck to the MOGA crew that's putting that on and whatnot. So, all right. And I think that's it. There was some news in there about some Ask a Lackey stuff. If you're a premium member, you got an email earlier today about it and whatnot. So, if you're a premium member, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, but if you're not, I spent the first 18 months geocaching as a regular member. So once I figured out the premium stuff, I didn't look back, and I've been doing it ever since. So if you are a premium member and you are subscribed to the logbook so that you get the email updates, you should have gotten an email today. And it has a section in there where you can, there you go. You can ask Signal, and they will forward any of your questions to one of the HQ lackeys for an answer about it. So there was a post in the geocaching blog about it, I believe. So if you've got questions, hey, reach out to them. All right. In the show notes, we have 5 links to some very useful things that will help you if you are trying to either A, solve, or B, create a Japanese style logic puzzle. I called these Japanese style logic puzzles because in most of the information that I found about them, they were created by a Japanese mathematician. Hence, Japanese style logic puzzles. These get published in books and get done over in Japan. I found out a lot. Like every time I walked into a 7-Eleven or another little convenience store or a gas station, there was like the whole magazine rack section, and probably half of it were like Sudoku puzzles, the Murapiki puzzles. So there were a bunch, but just books upon books. And every time I was on the train, there were people sitting there doing puzzles. And they are a puzzle, at least a basic math logic puzzle. They like to do them. And there were a lot of them over there. And I saw a lot of people doing them. In that, during last month's show, both before and after the show, I was on with Tom, and we were looking at a couple of these because I was trying to solve them before I went to Japan. And the hard part was I didn't know any of the rules, so I got to look at.
Well, hold on. Let's start with the first hard part.
Oh,
you don't know. You don't know any Japanese either.
I do not know. I do not know any Japanese.
Except for Godzilla.
Yeah, Gazira. So let me. I guess we'll pull this up and show the.
Well, let me answer those questions before you get into the puzzles.
Okay.
So first thing, you didn't know any Japanese.
I know 0 Japanese.
But you're going to work on a Japanese cache. So how difficult was that?
So Google Translate is fairly accurate with Japanese. There were a couple of words that you just knew that can't be right, and so like I would take it to another website outside of Google, or I'd take just the one word that didn't translate right, and translate just the one word, and that helped me. Google Translate was really helpful for that. And if you have the Google app on your phone, if you pull up the web browser, one of these buttons right here says translate text with your camera. And so when I got somewhere and didn't know what I wanted to do, I'd push that button, see if it'll show, right? So I'd push this translate text button, and then it brought up, and then I'd pointed at whatever I was wanting to look at, and it would translate it into English and overlay the Japanese characters with English words. And so that is how I got around Japan, how I knew what the menu was at restaurants.
Your phone has subtitles.
Yes. So the phone had subtitles, and that came in key for a lot of things. Cashly also has an option to where you can translate the logs. So the logs the previous logs, if I was trying to find a hint, in Cashly, you can push the three little buttons or the three little ellipses, the three dots off to the side, and it would bring up another window and say, translate this text to English. And then it would port it over into Google and translate it for you, so you knew what the log said. And a couple of times that was key, because I would have never found the geocache had it not been for that. So spoke no Japanese, Google Translator, how I decided what I was going to eat or drink or whatnot at restaurants was all based off of that. And that was a little different. Most of the places had menus out front, so you could kind of stand out front and look at it and figure out how much it was going to cost and whatnot. And then you went inside, and as long as you weren't I did eat at McDonald's twice while I was over there. So
I'm sorry.
It was phenomenal, though. Way better than what you'll ever eat at a McDonald's in the States. But you walk in, and there's usually like a machine right there by the front, and you push the button of whatever you wanted. It told you how much the price was going to be. You inputted your money. It spit you a little ticket out down at the bottom that you picked up. It spit out your change. You put your change in your pocket. You walked up to the counter and gave them your little ticket. They took that, read the Japanese that was on it. It told them what you had ordered. You just sit down. They'd make your food and bring it out to you. It was a phenomenal process. We had, and in fact, some of the we went and visited Hiroshima, and the place that we found to eat dinner at that night was so good of this pork Hiroshima style ramen that we went back there the next day for dinner the next day too. So it was the only restaurant that we ate at more than one time, besides McDonald's, because I ate at McDonald's twice. But every time else for any of my meals, we went and had, a Japanese meal somewhere and used the phone to translate. So Google Translate was key. If it didn't work, like I said, most of the cache pages and we'll see that tonight, are both written in English and in Japanese. So almost every, including my puzzle that I just had published in Japan, is both in English and Japanese. So Shiny Orbital, the reviewer over there, was kind enough to publish my cache in Japan, because I have a maintenance plan in place, because my son is stationed in the Navy there. So he's not but like 2 miles from the geocache, and he can go check on it if I need him to. So, and mine's the same way. Japanese first, English second, puzzle, and away you go.
All right. I mean, what about your searches for the caches? So I've only been to foreign countries. I've been to Canada, been to Mexico. I've been to Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and Louisiana. And, caching in a foreign country, you can be a little, when you're in your home ground, you're not worried about getting any trouble or nothing for the most part. But
no,
and I wasn't too worried about in the places I went, but you're on a complete other side of the world. I don't know. I'd be a little.
It was a little different. Caching in some of these places was super. Like we went to the Soji Temple there in Tokyo. There were several traditionals and a couple of virtuals there. The one traditional has like 440 favorite points, like astronomical amount. And you're looking for, a box that's this big. And there are thousands, and I mean thousands of people there. And so with so many people, you kind of just blend into the background and nobody ever pays you any, never mind. But we did have people stop us and ask us what we were doing. There was one that we found in the second level of a parking garage behind their version of like an Ace Hardware. It was a multiple store, hardware, outdoor, garden center, kind of reminded me of an Ace Hardware. But it was a 2-floor, and on the back side of the building was a raised parking garage, and it was out in the very back corner of that. We did have a store employee stop us and ask us what we were doing. And we were able to pull up the geocaching website and then hit the Japanese version of the website and then hand them our phone. And they read through it and they were like, oh, okay. Turned around and walked away. And they didn't care what we were doing about it anymore. But I'll tell you, we did not run into outside the one time that there was an accident in Hiroshima where a car hit a pedestrian. I couldn't tell you. I went through Tokyo, went through Kawasaki and Yokohama and whatnot, all these towns, and I never saw any police. They blended in really well too. So we weren't too concerned with getting stopped. It was a store employee that stopped us and wanted to know what we were doing. But for the most part, just like here, we didn't, finding the caches was different, but the whole search process for it, nobody for the most part paid us any attention while we were there.
And the containers, you told me about one before the show, is a little different.
Yeah, so they have these little plastic, they're almost like hide-a-key. And you'll see some in my YouTube videos that I have when they come out. But they're about the size of 2 little flash drives that were stuck together, right? So they weren't real big, and the lid slid open on the one, and log sheet inside it. They 2-part epoxy or super glue magnets inside them, and then where you're going to find them is, the majority of the ones that we found. I did find a couple of guardrail caches. Their lamppost skirts, their lampposts don't have skirts. So there were no skirt lifters over there. What they do have is a plethora of outside vending machines that have Coke, water, lemonade. Some of them have energy drinks. Some of them have like hot coffee. They'll have like coffee in a can that comes out hot. So the whole can is hot. And so that was kind of different, but they have those on every other street corner. And so a lot of them were those little flat magnet packs that were stuck up underneath those vending machines. And so you kind of had to, take a knee and slide your hand under there, or put your phone under there and look for it. and then whatnot, then you were pretty good to go. So was pretty, once we figured out that, that was a cache container, like we went back to one and we're like, oh, here it is, and so we kind of had overlooked a couple of them initially because I didn't know what I was looking for and didn't realize that what I looked at was the actual cache container. So once
so that had to take him back to your first days of caching then.
Oh yeah, a couple of them because I didn't. The way that the first couple of them that I looked at they blended in so well that, I'm looking, and of course they're talking.
Cool.
They said they were a micro, so of course I'm looking for, something like this or, a magnetic nano. Those don't exist over there. I didn't find a single black, white, gray, camouflage, magnetic little nano button. No, I didn't find a single. And I found 50 caches, right? Small sample size for the country, right? But I found 50 geocaches. Probably 10 of those were virtuals. So say 40 physical containers between the Where I Goes that I did, the multis. I did a couple of letterbox hybrids and a bunch of traditionals, right? I never once found one of the little black magnetic nanos. And so if you were an American there that you were like, yeah, I got a pocket full of these and could get them hid, that would probably throw them for a loop because that's not normal for them, right? I didn't find a single container like that. I did find I found 2 mint tins, one that was a Altoid style mint tin, and then one was like the Eclipse gum. The Australians would know what that is, the little Eclipse mint tins where the lid pops off. I found one of those in a regular Altoids tin. I didn't find any of those little black magnetic button nanos, none of those. Most of everything that we found that was over there that was a micro was that little plastic, I was there for 10 days and I never did figure out what that container originally was designed for. We did find a couple of, I found one indoors at a restaurant that I was first to find on. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture. And I did find one that was the 2 bottle cap ends that was 2-part epoxy together. But for the most part, they were those little flat packs, those little plastic flat packs. And I'm trying to see if I can.
While you're looking, last question before I turn you loose to go through the puzzles. Did you see Godzilla or any of his footprints?
Yes. So if you've seen the Geocache Talk Network social media or my social media, I hid a preformed soda bottle at a park in Yokosuka that was at mine is hidden roughly close to a big, huge 50-foot tall Godzilla that's at a park that is a slide. So you climb up between his legs into his belly, and then you slide down his tail like Fred Flintstone getting off of work at the end of the day.
Oh, I'd so do that in a heartbeat. I asked that as being silly, and now I want to go.
Trust, there's a picture of me in that slide, and I crawled up in it, and I tried to go down it, and I got about halfway and stuck. And of course, my son, comes around the corner and he snaps a picture of me stuck in the slide. And so I had to push myself and pull myself out of the slide because, it was a foot, deep. But I mean, I was hip to hip going down the sides, and it got to a little spot where it got narrow, and that's where I stopped. So yeah. All right, let me stop sharing this screen. Let me show you. This is
Uh-oh.
this is a picture of what the little plastic containers look like. So there you go. That's one of them, and it's I mean, that's it. That's as big as it was, and the two pieces slid apart. So I didn't know if it was originally like a hide a key for just one key. On the inside of this, it has a couple of compartments. So I never did. We went to several different stores and looked at stuff. I never could figure out what this was, but it's not very big. It's super thin. It's super lightweight. It's not waterproof at all. But they'll stick a couple of magnets down in there. And this one was hidden underneath this. This is at a park. This is like a little tool shed they had there that was sitting on like a metal pallet, and that thing was stuck up underneath the metal pallet because the rest of the box was aluminum. So once you kind of figured some of that out, it kind of helped you narrow things down. I'll see if I can find another picture in my photo album of those, so it kind of gives you another idea of what they were. But yeah, it just until I realized that that's what it was, and then we had to go back to the first or second cache that we found. But I did find a single bison tube in all of the geocaches that were there. One was a bison tube. Let's see, that one was that. So, but yeah, so it was a good time. It was a great experience. I would go back. I know there was somebody in last month's show that was talking about the different pictures of, or their manhole covers.
That was usually after the show.
Yeah, each have a different design, and they were cool. I took a bunch of pictures, and people were looking at me like I was crazy because they were like, "Why is he taking a picture of the sewer cover?" But I did, and
because they're cool. That's why.
Yeah, and later I found out after I posted them on my Instagram page that somebody said that there is a path tag made that looks like every single one of the ones that I took a picture of and posted. So they're like, yeah, there's a whole path tag section that is Japanese sewer covers. So who knew?
I think that's where I learned about them.
So,
all right, we're 35 minutes in. You got to get to a puzzle.
I know, right? All right, so let's Oh, did I close it all the way? No, I didn't. There we go. This one. All right, so
I'd help you out, but as the sign says, I'm just a stage prop tonight.
That's right. And that's okay. We still very much love that. So, all right. So this is a cache page. This is exactly what I saw when I pulled one up. This cache is GC8M577. Boop, boop. We'll do that, and then I'll post it into there for everybody so that they can click on it and look at it if they want to. So you just get a warning that says the cache is not at the posted location. Please solve the puzzle below to find the cache. and then you have that same text in Japanese, and then you have these two puzzles. And these two puzzles are exactly what you get. You don't get anything more from them. You don't there are no instructions. There's no nothing else. It's just this, right? And so this was part of the problem is I didn't know any of the rules for the puzzles. I didn't know.
This is one we were looking at after the show last time.
It is. So this is the one that we were looking at, but it is called Leap Day Logic Puzzle. And so it's kind of funny that we talk about Leap Day, but this cache has two different puzzles, and they each have their own different set of rules. But I didn't know what those rules were. And so the first thing you have to do is figure out what kind of puzzle you are looking at. And to do that, I put multiple links in the show notes that will help you. But one of them is this Nikolai puzzles. So this is the one, the Nikolai puzzles, they were all created by a Japanese mathematician. And so you can kind of go through these and figure out the different types of puzzles. And once you click on one and figure out what it is, then it will give you the rules for it, right? So, if you just click on...
Okay.
So here are the rules for it, right? So this tells you how to solve the puzzle, right? So if you don't know what it is, you just click on each one of these different ones and be like, oh, that looks like exactly what I'm looking for, because the cache page doesn't tell you what kind of puzzle it is. It just tells you that, so, you click on this and you're like, here are the rules. A rectangle bordered by bold lines is called a room. You fill the cells under each of the following rules. And it tells you this, right? And so in the end, so this is what you start with. This is the intermediate portion. And then this is what you finish with as you're doing some of these puzzles. So when I was looking at this, I didn't understand what these were. And then, so I needed to figure out what kind of puzzle I was looking at. So
we did some reverse image searching, if I remember right.
Yeah, we did do some reverse image searching, and then I came across this website here that is in the show notes. It is Crosswords with an AUS, because the guy who built this webpage is Australian. So it's crosswords.com, but CRAUS words.com. But it's in the show notes, so you can go in there and look. But once I figured out that this was one of these kind of puzzles, I could figure out, this is, let me see if I can pull this back down so we can all read it. You can go anywhere from 4x4 to 10x10, but it says some of the remaining squares either contain an X or an O. To solve each puzzle, the solver must place an X or an O into each of the remaining squares, such that there are never 3 X's or 3 O's in a line, either vertically, horizontally, or diagonally, right? Each puzzle has a unique solution. And so once you're done, you end up with something that looks like the puzzle on the solved portion on the right. And so you can never have more than 2 X's, or you can never have 3 X's or 3 O's in a line. So you could have 2, kind of like how they have 2 X's on top of each other and 2 X's. So you have 4 X's right here in a row or in a little square. That's allowed, but you couldn't have an X below it or another X in the diagonal. or something like that. So once you knew the rules, then you could start to solve it. And once I solved this, then I had to figure out what the puzzle was. And this is where Tom came in, because I was like, well, once I get this all solved, I still don't know what to do with it. I don't know what these four, each one of these is 4 characters long. And so it could be 2 X's and 2 O's. It could be an X, a O, and an X. It's going to be something. And Tom came up with a brilliant idea. And you said, what?
All right, let's see if anybody puts it in the chat room. What could it be? We'll give you 10 seconds to type in a word. Of course, there's a 15-second delay, so I guess we give them 25.
Right. So once I completed the puzzle for the actual just X's and O's, then we had to figure out what each one of these 4-digit squares meant. Right. And so trying to figure that out became another puzzle all in itself.
We got a winner. We got a winner.
Melanie got it. So it did turn out to be binary. So you had ones and zeros. Your X's were your ones. Your O's were your zeros. And so that's kind of where that all played out. And then each one of these 4-digit codes gave you a single number, right? I don't think any of them gave me a 2-digit number. So like, I think it was 1 through 9s in binary. So once I got all of that solved, then basic arithmetic gave you the you subtract the red group from the brown group, and that gave you the first part of your decimal degrees. You add the 2 gray sections together, which oddly enough were 2 different numbers. So you had to go ahead and solve all of that. And then, so once you came up with that only gave you half of the puzzle. You then had this other puzzle over here that are the other coordinates for this. So then you had to realize what this puzzle was. And the fun part about this puzzle, which it is a Futoshiki, Futoshiki.
Hopefully you didn't say something bad.
I know, right? That was but the fun part about this Futoshiki puzzle is that I found a online what did I do? I found an online solver for it, right? And so this online solver, which is in the show notes for y'all, so that you can then reverse engineer this to build you one. This was fun because you could go to all 7 and hit the create button. And so now that it'll build you a 7x7, right? And so then you can take this, and I'll pull this over to a different screen for me so that I can see the puzzle. But so what happens is right here in the middle, you click on it and you can do your arrows one way or the other, right? And so in this, each one of these arrows tells you how to, it gives you an order. So one of these numbers is bigger than, so this number is bigger than this number, and this number is bigger than this number, and this number is bigger than this number. But each row and column each contains a 1 through 7, right?
No 8s or 9s.
No 8s or 9s in this one because the puzzle only has 7 squares, right? And so let's see if we can build this enough to see if it will just give us something. Dun, dun. There. And so once you get all of this stuff kind of inputted, you can then hit, yeah, that looks close enough. There and there. You can now hit solve with logic, or you can hit the solve and it will solve it through trial and error and just give you the solution, right? So if you just hit solve, it'll bam. So then you can see that you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7 on this first row. And then in this first column, you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? There's no duplicate numbers. Everything is 1 through 7, minus the diagonals. The 2 diagonals do not follow those rules, but the columns and the rows all follow those rules. So thankfully, there was a solver that I found that solved it for me like this, and then I just took those numbers and plugged them in, did my simple arithmetic for the puzzle cache, and solved it. So this website is in the show notes. You can always reverse engineer some of this to create a puzzle. And you can also create it all the way up to 9. And once you do that, then you can really start to get wild with it. So there was some of that. So between this solver and what you and I had discovered for the other puzzle, I was able to then, I got the east-west coordinates real well. And so once I got the east-west coordinates, it was, I could sit there and say, yeah, well, it's not going to be up here. And so I kind of started to figure out what numbers were outside of the realm of possibility for the north-south coordinates, and that kind of helped me solve that puzzle. So
if you were to build one of these on your own, I was thinking, well, either one of these, this one or the other one, individually, you could have it figure out the number. I guess in the second one, it works more. You have it figure out all those numbers. You color code a couple cells and put the colors at the bottom, and you just get a code and enter that in certitude.
Sure.
One way. Instead of coming out with coordinates, you just get a code.
Yeah, you could do that. So this is the second puzzle that we came across. This one, again, has 2 different puzzles, but you don't know what kind they are. So first you have to figure out what they are. Thankfully, I knew what this one is. It is called a math square, or cross math. It's similar, but not the same as the magic square. So if you start looking for some of these and come across a bunch of magic square stuff, there is a solver that will solve for this puzzle online, though I couldn't find it, so I didn't put it in the show notes. But there is a solver for the puzzle on the left, though no lie, it's factoring. So you have this number, if you look at the bottom row, you have this number plus this number times this number equals 119. Well, 119, there aren't a whole lot of factors that go into it. And so you can kind of sit there and say, all right, 119, what times what gives you, 119. So you factor out 119, and then you can start narrowing some of that down, because you're like, oh, well, it's 7 times 13 or whatever it is. I just pulled those numbers out of my, those may not be correct. So don't some math teacher get in there and yell at me that those aren't cool factors. But once you could figure out this number for the green square and get these to go backwards, that's how I solved it. And then the rest of it just kind of fell into place, right? Because 36 times, whatever, if this was a 2, or a 3, right? What times, you divide 36 by 3, that's going to give you a 3 there, and then you take the other half of that number and you plug it into these two. So this plus this, and you just kind of work the math out. But thankfully, I knew what this was. It was this one over here that I didn't know. And so this one, when I was trying to figure it out, it is a
I don't know the name of it, but Cheryl's done them.
It is a Kakuro, Kakuro. Again, I've got links to the instructions and all of this stuff in the show notes. But when you look at this, here is what it tells you. So this is from the Nikolai website for all of this stuff. But the rules are that you have to put numbers 1 through 9 in each cell. So no zeros, right? A number in a cell divided by a diagonal line tells you the sum of those numbers in consecutive cells to its right or down below it. No number may appear more than once in consecutive cells. So in this, so you have 3 in this one cell. You have a 3 in the top half. That means that these two numbers have to equal 3. Well, you can see that over here it's a 2 and a 1. So 3 is easy. You either got a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2.
1 and 2. Yeah.
But what can you not have for 4?
So if you got a 1, you can't have 2 and 2. So
you can't have 2 and 2. It's 1 and 3 or 3 and 1. And so when you start going through some of this stuff, it can get complicated, and it did for the puzzle that I was doing, because as I was going through solving this line that equals 17, and then this line that equals 16, and making it match with this line that did 11 and this line that does 23, was right in here is where I was having issues. And the problem with that is that I have 2 numbers that I needed out of here, and they gave me a digit here and a digit at the very end. And so I was having issues getting this line that had 17 to equal up with this line that had 23, this line that had 16, and this line that had 11. Because like this for 3, I either have a 3 here or a 1. Well, that dramatically changes the numbers for these other blocks in the 17, right? And so, once I figured out what the rules were for this and could kind of start going along, but this 4 is either a 1 and a 3 or a 3 and a 1. But this row had to equal 3. So this green square couldn't be a 3. It had to be a 1, which meant this had to be a 2, right? Because that equals 3 for this line. And so you had a 1 and a 3. And then you have this 3. And so it has to be a 1 and a 2, And so it got to be really, some of it fell into place really easy, but then parts of this were super hard for me to get past. But once I got past some of that, it was simple arithmetic. He does have thankfully, the cache owner for these caches, in looking at it, is a U.S. Navy service member, because he's got caches there outside the Navy base in Yokosuka. He's got some caches outside the Navy base in southern Japan, in Okinawa. And then he's got a bunch of geocaches in and around the San Diego area. So kind of made sense that he was a U.S. service member. But So that kind of helped me, with some of this stuff because I felt like I could reach out to him and say, "Hey, I'm having issues with this," but I could also look at some of his other puzzles because he has a couple of this style puzzle in San Diego, and so I could look at it and say, "Oh, and kind of solve that one," and it would help me solve. Once I solved a couple of these, then this part where I was having problems kind of came a little easier. Um,
So
and
that
so
bottom, that bottom right square, it's just killing me. I got to know. It's either a 6 or a 7.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know which one. I just know that's all it can be.
Yeah, because this one has to be either a 2 or a 1. Right? So this one
Right.
being a 2 or a 1 leaves this one has to be a 6 or a 7 because these two have to total 8. So this one is either a 6 or a 7. And then you subtract this one, which is where I was having problems because it's right on the line between what could be like 40 or 41. So it could either be 40 and like 9 something something, or it was 41 and low. But it wasn't until I got some of this solved that I was like, oh, well, it has to be. Then I started looking at it logically and said, oh, it has to be this so that it'll fit in the rest of the puzzle.
Yeah. So those two where the 16s are, one of those is a 9 and one's a 7. Because you can't have 8 and 8.
Correct.
And you only got 2 squares to deal with. So one's a 9, one's a 7.
Maybe not.
So.
Or, well, no, yeah, you're right. It has to, because you can't have, you got 2 squares and you have to equal 16. You can't go above 9.
All right. So if there can only be a 9 and a 7, and I know the blue at the bottom right is a 6 or a 7. So that's 7. It's 7 and 6. So it's 41.
Well, so the red square and the blue square end up being the same number.
Oh.
Because
7 and 7. Okay.
Yeah. And I say that because the corrected coordinates that were down here in the checker doesn't reset. So the corrected coordinates were shown down in the checker.
I wasn't looking. I was
I know. But if somebody goes back and looks at it now, they're going to be like, oh, I've got it solved. Well,
they wouldn't have if you hadn't said nothing.
That's right. But now you can just, I don't want to say cheat, but you could just totally just take this puzzle now and re-engineer it and put it out. Just change where the colored squares are. All the numbers are going to be the same. You just change where your colored squares are and republish it. And bam, there you go. But don't give anybody, do like this guy did, and don't give anybody any of the rules, right? You just, this is all you get. Enjoy this fun logic puzzle before grabbing the smiley. That's all I got. There's no hint.
The one on the left, so the bottom row, it's something plus something times something.
Yep.
Okay, so the one math part of me says you got to do the multiplication before you do the addition. But there's also the thing that just says you do it in order no matter what.
So this one, if I recall correctly, did not follow PEMDAS.
Okay. So it's in order. So something plus something
times
and then times something.
Okay. Right. Equals 119. So it was something along those lines. I have to go back and pull up my notes that shows me how I solved it. That will give me the solutions. But
I'm gonna assume left to right and then top to bottom.
Yeah, that's how If I remember correctly, that's how I solved it. But I've slept since then and time traveled in 2 different directions. So, all right. So now we'll look at the third puzzle, which this one I have not solved, but it was one that was by the same cache owner in Tokyo. And so we can look at this one the same way. So this is what he gives you puzzle wise. This one is really big. Is a really big logic puzzle. And then there's this one right here. So let me.
I'm gonna guess on the one on the left, using numbers 1 through 6. They can only be, a one. You can't repeat anything in a row or a column or in one of those shapes.
So let me try to open this in another window and see if we can make this a little bigger. So here. All right. So here is our puzzle. You can see that in each one of these rooms, there is a set of numbers. So there's a 17, and then a 9, and then a 6, and then a 9 for these 3 squares, and then a 9 for these 3 squares, and then a 13 for these 4 squares, a 15 for these 5 squares with the gold and the yellow block. So the number in the corner, this is called, so some of these terms are copyrighted. So be careful if you give a name, but these are, the copyrighted name is a kin or Inshi no Heya. So we'll look at this kin article real quick. So it says, so as in Sudoku, the goal is to fill each puzzle with a grid. You can have, for a 4x4 grid, you can only use numbers 1 through 4. For a 5x5, you can only use numbers 1 through 5. And for a 6x6, you can only use numbers 1 through 6. So in here, these 2 squares have to equal 9. In some of the puzzles, they tell you whether you have to add them. But if it doesn't tell you that, then you have to multiply them. And so this would be like a 3 times 3 is 9, right? To get 6, you have a 2 times 3, or a 3 times 2, or a 6 times 1, or a 1 times 6. Again, I haven't solved this one, so I don't know if in this he wants you to add them or if you're supposed to multiply them. I am assuming you need to add, since you have a 9 that takes up 3 squares. And so you would have a 3 plus 3 plus 3. That equals 9. Otherwise, you have a 9 times, a 3 times 3 times 1, right? Which would give you 9 as well. So this is another one of those that I saw these people on the train just rocking through them. And I just was in awe of how quickly a couple of these people were just moving through some of these. And of course, I struggle with it because A, I didn't grow up with it. B, I didn't know what the rules were. B, I didn't know what the name of the puzzle was, much less what the rules were. And when you sit there and looked at some of them and realized that, the rules are different for this style versus this style. It was it was a little intimidating. I haven't solved this one, so I couldn't answer that, and I don't know how. I mean, this is so massive to me compared to the little ones that we just did that I just was blown away by it. But there are no real hints to solve these. You have to figure out what kind of puzzle it is, and then in some of these there are online solvers, so you can kind of just plug the numbers in and poop, it'll solve it for you. But yeah, so I would assume that this is all addition, and that these 5 blocks right here with the red square and these 4 have to total 16, right? And use numbers 1 through 6. At least that's what I'm gathering by, reading the rules.
So that one right below it is a 9. And I'm thinking in those 3 squares, you either have 5. Oh, hold on. I blew that. 4, 3, 2, or 5, 3, 1.
Right. And because what I'm seeing in this is that none of the
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you need to do multiplication or if you need to do addition. There are the Wikipedia pages and the rules for these puzzles that I found show both. Show a multiplication version and an addition version. So I would say that you would have to trial and error it until you came up with it. But
those numbers are so small, I'd have to say they're addition.
I would agree with you. That it has to be some type of addition. Because none of these numbers are, and to get something like 17 and 15 out of multiplication. I'm not real confident in that for you. Since a couple of these are prime numbers, so the only way you're going to multiply anything and get 7 out of it is
7 and 1.
7 and 1. And so the addition portion makes much more sense for this than some of the other stuff. So,
and then the one on the right's kind of just like the one you just showed before.
Yeah, it's just on a much larger scale. And if you look at this one right here, this row that has the green, the blue, and the purple square in it, that totals 45. And so to get this one that totals 45, and then this one that has the gold and the gray square in it totals 29, to have both of these rows come through here and all match up, and this 3 is 15 and this 2 is 16, right? And so just in order to get it all to add up and jive is, down here in this bottom corner of the puzzle, takes a lot of numbers being exactly right. Because when you change one number here, you don't only just change it for this row left and right, you also change every number up and down by a digit somehow, one way or another. So it can get super complicated and super, super confusing, super frustrating, because the little one that I did had me ready to just not find it. And then I had an aha moment and solved it. But I didn't even look at this one until I was back home, because this one is in a portion of Tokyo that we weren't going to go to. So I didn't even look at it. I was actually just looking at the cache owner, who is called Omaha Islander. And so it wasn't until I got home that I wanted a third puzzle for the show to show. But yeah, this one, and it's funny because the two that I did solve that were on the first two puzzles that we looked at, one of those was my very first geocache that I solved that I found in Japan. So my very first cache find in Japan was a puzzle cache.
Oh, way cool.
And it was a little lock and lock box in a guardrail, like this close to the road. Like the guardrail was here and I was on one side of it, and not 6 inches the other side of that guardrail, there are cars whizzing past you. So
don't stick your head out.
don't make a mistake when you're kneeling down to get this cache out of the guardrail. But that'll be in a YouTube video that I have that I'm working on that will get published here soon on my YouTube channel. So, but super fun. I solved these puzzles before I got over there, but it was super hard. But once I found that Nikolai website, that ended up really helping me figure out, because then I just clicked on each one, said, nope, it's not this one. Nope, it's not this one. Oh, it's this one. And then you read the rules to it, and then you can go through and kind of figure out, oh, all right, well, this is this, that, and the other. But once I figured out the rules to it, then that really helped me be able to solve it, because not knowing the rules,
you could have printed out a couple copies of each one of those puzzles and handed them out on the trains you were on to people and say, here, solve this and get it back to me.
Yeah, and then give them, like 500 yen so that they can go do whatever with it. Yeah. Because now that you mentioned that may be what I do next time is print me off a little deal that says, I don't know how to solve this puzzle. Can you help me? And then say, if you can solve it, I will give you 500 yen, and let this, 12-year-old schoolboy solve it while he's riding the train from, one stop to another. And once he gets it solved, give him the 500 yen. And 500 yen will get you from where my son's Navy base was in Yokosuka all the way to downtown Tokyo, to the main Tokyo station. Was 460 yen to ride the train. So, 500 yen, as long as you're not riding the bullet train, will get you, 45 minutes by train up the road.
Oh, wow. That's cheap.
Yeah. And it was something, whatever it was, like 100 yen is like 75 cents, something like that. The 750 yen that we paid for the large bowl of ramen ended up being something like $4.75 for dinner when we were in Hiroshima. 750 yen, no big deal. And it was phenomenal food. That was outside of the history aspect of some of the stuff that I went and saw from, having a military background. The history of Japan was amazing, but the food, man, I could live there off of some of the food that they had there. It was phenomenal. If like some other cachers I know, Japan is on your bucket list, do it sooner than later. I had a phenomenal time. Laura didn't get to go with me because of some last minute changes with my work schedule that didn't jive with hers. And so she didn't get to go. So we're looking at going back again this year, potentially. So, but it was, let me tell you, a phenomenal time. They had great puzzles, good geocaching. I'm excited to attempt to go back again and do some more because they have state equivalents. I think in the video I called them county equivalents, but Japan is a country, and then they're broke down into what are called prefectures, and that's their state equivalent inside the country. But there is a challenge cache to find a geocache in every one of them. And I was like, oh, that's on the list. It's on the list now. There are a lot of prefectures in the country, but yeah. So
you got more of them done than I do.
I got 3. I got a total of 3 in that whole trip. And I got a geocache published in one. So, but if you're interested in some of these logic puzzles, or you would like to have something slightly different puzzle-wise in your local area, the GC codes for each one of these 3 puzzles is in the show notes. I encourage you to go to the show notes, look at some of them, do like Melanie, do like some reverse image searches, use the Wikipedia pages, the nikolai.co.jp webpage that has all of the puzzles on there and whatnot. There are some free services that will let you download some of these puzzles. So you can get in there and download a couple of them. And then once you solve them, or if they give you the key to it, then you can put you some colored squares in there with MS Paint and publish it and let it go. They were super fun to do. And I was surprised when I got on the train as to how many people had little puzzle books with all of these puzzles already in them. And they were knocking them out. Really, I mean, I sat next to a lady from the from Haneda International Airport she got off in Kawasaki as we were going through on the train. But she went through about 4 of these puzzles in a 20-minute time. Just
wow.
I mean, she was rocking and rolling. And so I'm sure, like any, their difficulty levels for them, but from somebody who didn't know, man, she was flying. She was flying. So, but if you want to see some of the stuff that I experienced in Japan, you can check out my social media. I've got stuff that I have posted to my Instagram page, which is @3CharlesWatkins. I will be having, I think I filmed 3 or 4 videos worth of stuff while I was in Japan. So 3 or 4 videos are coming out. And then if you look up my geocaching profile page, you will see the one Godzilla puzzle that I did get solved published while I was there. In fact, let me see if I can pull a picture of this Godzilla statue up. There you go. So let me share this screen. Boop, boop. So there's the Godzilla statue, and you can see me sitting in the slide portion of it right here in his tail, right here. So this was, so there you can see me sitting right there. But this was the Godzilla statue. This is roughly where the end of my puzzle cache takes you. And you can see the stairs right there that go up between his legs into his belly. So it was, so there you go. So you can see the stairs that go up and the slide goes down his tail. So this was a really fun place to visit and whatnot. But I did get a puzzle cache published in Japan that ends.
I'm just totally cracking up of where they placed that thing.
Yeah, it's up at a children's park. So there's
No, that's not what I'm looking at.
Oh, the power lines?
All the power lines around
Yeah.
it. I mean, that's like every Godzilla movie there was. He's got to go through the power lines and hit them and make all the sparks fly. And
yeah, so that's what I hid, a green and brown preform. So there's a good size comparison for what it is, but you climb up these little stairs right here and then slide down his tail. It was I accidentally found this in like a Google search that I was doing one day because I was scrolling around Japan looking, and I was like, Godzilla statue or Godzilla slide, like it's on Google Maps if you scroll over to the right place. But I uploaded a couple of these pictures to Google as well. So, you know,
I would have driven so far out of my way to get to that. That is cool.
Yeah, and it took us about 30 minutes of walking from where my son's apartment is there in Japan. We walked to it. It's in a park that has beautiful flower gardens. They were putting new flowers out. So I can just imagine that some of them, when they bloom, will be really cool. But that was the slide that we put it at, and more or less, this was a little selfie stand, so you could set your phone in there, and the top of this thing would swivel, so you could turn your camera and then push the timer, and then run up the stairs and get a picture of you, you know, at Godzilla's feet. It was a really cool little, you know. And then this was the plaque that's down in the bottom of the statue. But, you know, was there at a little kids park. You can see some of the park equipment and whatnot back here in the back. They had like a little zip line and a jungle gym and a bunch of slides. And, you know, hopefully the puzzle's not too hard for people to solve. We've already had one person solve it, but, you know, it was a good time. So if you're over in that area of Japan, there are some really cool and really good puzzle caches. So really encourage people, if you're traveling around, to get out and do some geocaching.
That's cool.
Okay, so let's see. That's it for tonight. Let's see. Next month we are on the 5th, Tuesday the 5th. So that's going to be our next show. Will be March 5th. We'll figure out what we're going to do, get some show notes written up, and get you guys a show ready to go. But I had a really good time in Japan. Had a really good time with some of these puzzles, even though a couple of them were super frustrating at times. But did want to share some of that with you guys. So, yeah.
All right. So for the next show, if y'all got something you want us to go over, send it to us. And where do they send it to?
Puzzle Talk Podcast at gmail.com. Right. Let's see. Yeah. Here you go. Puzzle Talk Podcast at gmail.com.
Man, that's between 2 megas for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be right after the 1 mega for you, huh?
Yeah. It'll be right after Leap Day, and then we'll go to Challenge. We'll be there for a week for Challenge.
Yeah. It'll be a good time. So, all right. We hope everybody enjoyed the show. We appreciate the chat room and all of the comments as always. And then until next time, get out there and go geocaching.
And solve some puzzles.
Solve some puzzles. We'll see y'all later.